Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the complex relationship between Lilitu, Lamashtu, and Ishtar. Some of the information in this presentation you'll have seen before, but I put it together in a certain way to bring out these relationships. So let's get started. So first, the Dimme goddess demons. The Sumerian god list called Anu Anum is a cuneiform list from the Assyrian period that lists all deities with their Sumerian and Assyrian names. The full list is difficult to get and costs over $250 on most sites. There are a couple of universities that have the full list for free, however. Remember that Dim Me Ar is gods and goddesses, Dim Me is gods, and Dim Me Air is goddesses. So the Sumerian word Dimmi with an R means gods and goddesses, plural. Dimmi.ir is gods, and Dimmi.er is goddesses. Three of these names are found together in a number of incantation scripts, as well as in the An Anum. Dimmi, Labartu, Lamashtu, Labartu being an old pronunciation and spelling, and her name means she who erases or she who strangles. Dimmi A is Labasu, she who comes at night, and Dimmi Kur is Hakasu, she who seizes. In addition to this trio, there are two other goddess demons in the list with the form Dimmi. Dimmi Gi, Lilitu, and Dimmi Hab, Abizu. Only gods and goddesses are found in this list, although some of them are also demons. Lilitu. The Sumerian name for Lilith is Dimmi-Gi, which loosely means deity of the night. The Syrian name of Lilitu contains the syllable Lil, which means air, as in the god Enlil and his consort Ninlil. The Assyrian name is sometimes translated as she who comes by air or she who comes by wind. She is also associated with night because the syllable Lil is also related to the Semitic word Lael, which means night. There are many gods, goddesses who are also demons in Mesopotamia. The title of demon means that a being does not follow the rules of deity and do their own thing. The major deities have contracts with the major city-states, where the demon goddesses and gods do not and work with whomever they want. It is unknown who Lilitu's parents are, but at least one was a deity, or she would not have been considered a goddess. Being a goddess demon, Lilitu was not a city-based deity, but instead was engaged with the Kasapu and Kasaptu, or witches of Mesopotamia. Lamashtu. The Sumerian name Dim-Me has been translated to Labartu, or more commonly in recent history as Lamashtu. In myths, she menaced women during childbirth and, if possible, kidnapped their babies while they were being breastfed. She would gnaw on their bones and suck their blood. Lamashtu is depicted as a mythological hybrid with a hairy body, a lioness's head, and donkey teeth, long ears like a donkey, long fingers and fingernails, and the feet of a bird with sharp talons. Sometimes she also has a snake for a tail. In some texts, she is the daughter of the Sumerian sky god Anu, and in others, the Sumerian air god Enlil. Because of her parentage, she is goddess, and by her actions, a demon. Lamashtu is not Lilitu, but many of her attributes were syncretized to Lilith in her later times, so it is important to consider her in this discussion. Ishtar. The Sumerian goddess Inanna is later called Ishtar in Assyrian. Her title was the Queen of Heaven. She is the goddess of love and war, who became the primary goddess of Babylon. She was arguably one of the most powerful of the Mesopotamian deities. Her mythology is complex. In some stories, her father was the sky god An, in others, the moon god Nana, or at times the wind god Enlil. Her sister is the goddess of the underworld, Ereshkigal. She is later known as Astarte in Canaan, and it is believed she was also the prototype for the Greco-Roman Aphrodite Venus. Interestingly, as an aside, Astarte is then brought into Jewish tradition under the name Ashtaroth and called a demon. Ishtar's temple was special. Ishtar's temple had priests that were special non-binary bisexual priests and priestesses known as the Gala. She also had many goddesses that were called her handmaidens, all goddesses of sexuality, fertility, and passion. Lilitu and Lamashtu. Lilitu and Lamashtu are absolutely different entity based on the fact that they are listed in the Sumerian Assyrian god list with their own names, and they also have their own attributes. Both Lilitu and Lamashtu are part of a group of demon deities called the Shadim in Mesopotamia and Canaan. This classification was based on their status as demons and deities, all winged, mostly with bird feet, and mostly protectors, even though they were chaotic. Lamashtu was the exception to the part about being a protector. She was super chaotic, fed on babies, and tormented pregnant women. These were not attributes that Lilitu shared during her period in Mesopotamia. She was a goddess of wind, night, and sexuality. However, when Lilitu was brought into Jewish tradition, while the Jewish elite were in exile in Babylon, they combined her mythology with several other Mesopotamian goddesses, including Lamashtu. Because of this, Lilith was then deemed a baby killer and tormentor. Even though Lilitu and Lamashtu were separate beings, they became irrevocably enmeshed over the last 2 centuries as their mythology and stories were intertwined. This demonization of Lilith is what created the qliphothic versions of Lilith in Jewish Midrash. Lilitu and Ishtar. The relationship between Lilitu and Ishtar is quite complicated, and their complete connection is unknown. The identity of Lilitu's parents is unknown. However, some myths list her father as the same aspects or the same suspects as to Ishtar's father. It is possible that they're siblings. Lilitu is also called Ishtar's handmaiden, sent to be out to bring people to her temple. One of the most interesting stories about their relationship is in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Lilitu is in a sacred tree that Ishtar wants to be made into a bed and a throne. This because she's the goddess of love and war. Ishtar sends Gilgamesh to dispatch Lilitu and the other inhabitants of the tree. Interestingly, the whole tale fits the pattern of a Mesopotamian exorcism. The question is, why couldn't Ishtar cast Lilitu out on her own, since she was an incredibly powerful goddess? And this brings up questions about what is their relationship. We may never know exactly what the relationship was, but it is absolutely complicated. So, what are the conclusions? Based on separate names, different origins, and individual listings in the Sumerian Assyrian god list, Lilitu, Lamashtu, and Ishtar are not the same being. However, all three goddesses have been linked in various ways over time and space, creating connections that are now intertwined. Lilitu and Lamashtu stories have been linked, and now modern Lilith has the attributes and mythology of both deities. This is similar to the synchronization of the Hebrew Samiel with the Greco-Roman god Lucifer. Lilitu and Ishtar's relationship is even more complicated because we don't even know how exactly they were related in the ancient beliefs of Sumer, but it is certain there is a relationship between the two. So the point of this is I do see them all as separate deities, but there are such close relationships that it is hard at times to separate their mythology, separate who is who, and separate how they're related. Hopefully that was interesting. Thank you, and talk to you next time.